Welcome everyone to the Merch Minds podcast, episode 147. I've read your emails. I've read your messages. I apologize. I've been all over the place. I haven't been very consistent with my content, but trust me, I've read all your emails. I do have an awesome guest today, my good friend, Mr. Joseph Gallegos. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here, brother.
Hey man, anytime. I'm so happy that you're here. You're someone that I've been meaning to get on the show for some time now because I've been following your journey, uh, and you're doing phenomenally well for yourself, and we'll get into that here shortly. But uh, you want to get into our 7 day, our last 7 day numbers here?
Yeah, let's do that, man.
Okay, I'll go first. Uh, I know you probably blow me out of the water,
No.
but I'll go first here.
Okay.
So for my last 7 days, 86 products sold, 6 returns, product purchase, $1,902.27, with an estimated royalty of $405.60. All right, man, put me to shame.
Nice. All right, so let's see here. I'm looking at I'm at 313 sales, 13 returns, estimated royalties. It's $1,461.20.
That's awesome. That is awesome. So yeah, man. So why don't you give us a quick introduction, man? Tell us where you're from, maybe how you got into merch and all that.
Yeah, most definitely. So yeah, I'm born and raised Denver, Colorado. Let's see. I started merch. I was listening to a Reezy Resales podcast. I think RJ. He was definitely. I don't know if he was interviewing him or he just called in randomly or something. But RJ had called. It was my first introduction to RJ and merch. He explained what he was doing. I think Cinco de Mayo had just passed, and he was describing his sales, stuff like that. Literally real quick story is I had just dropped my girl off at work, and I was driving back listening to the podcast, and I heard RJ mention merch, and it kind of just clicked. I literally pulled over and I filled out the application on my phone. And, literally no. It was I think about a month later. A month later, I finally got approved. That was roughly August or September. I guess that would have been 2018. So so got approved a month later, and then that's how it started. Early on, I did go to I'll mention this real quick, to a merch conference here in Denver. It was one that you and Glenn had put on. I think I had only been in merch maybe three or 4 months. I don't remember the date of that, but and I was only tier 100, maybe 500. I can't remember exactly. But that was my introduction to you. Spoke to you and Glenn, and that ever since I pretty much. What had happened is I'd quit my job a couple months before applying. I was actually getting into FBA, and then I heard about merch, started doing merch, kind of put FBA to the side, and just went full time with merch. So and here we are, a little over 2 years later. So
2 years later, and you're full time, right? Correct.
I am full time. That's correct. Yep, I'm at home.
Full time. Yep. Making more than enough to support him and his family. You have 4 beautiful kids.
Yes, that's correct.
4 beautiful kids, and you're able to provide and put a roof over their head and just be that awesome father that every father should be. And before I continue, before I forget, happy belated birthday. I know you had a birthday, about a week or 2 ago?
Yeah, a couple weeks ago. No, I appreciate that, man. I apprate that.
Yeah, happy belated birthday. So here's the thing, man. And I'm totally getting off track here. So I've been kind of lacking with my content as far as the podcast, because things have been very, very overwhelming for me. Just recently I launched Pixel Pod Studio with my good friend Manny and RJ, and just behind the scenes, it's just been really chaotic, and just putting a lot of hours into that, and it's just and it's been really busy for me, and I've been meaning to do the podcast more, and I know I had asked you to be on a while back, and it's been trying to get Joseph on the show and Joseph never said no. He's like, I want to be on the show, but again, he's a father of four. He's very busy. And like I said, I've been really busy on my end. And finally today we have a little time to finally do this podcast. So that's kind of like the backstory of how I was able to get Joseph on the show. But
Yeah.
2 years in, 2 years doing merch by Amazon, he's now making full-time income. And I do remember meeting you in Denver a couple of years ago, maybe 2-3 years ago. And
Yeah.
my gosh, man, I've been following your journey. I know we don't talk as much as we should because, my gosh, I can learn a lot from you. I never said that I was an expert, and I'm always open to learning on how to improve my merch game, and you're someone that I should definitely talk to on a regular basis. But let's kind of pick your brain here for
Yeah.
the audience, man. So you started with it started obviously at the 10th tier.
Yes.
How were you able to scale so fast within 2 years to making literally a full-time living?
So yeah, I'll kind of go back a little bit. So it was definitely a journey. It was a lot of trial and error. A lot of failure early on. I will say, early on, let's say, like the first year even, I was really focused on trying. I was, and through all this I learned. But early on, I was really focused on trying to hit the holidays, looking for trends, trying to make the quick dollar, and through that, I learned that first and foremost, with the holidays, I never really did well. I tried St. Patrick's Day, Cinco de Mayo, 4th of July. I didn't have a whole lot of luck that first year with holidays, and same with trends. I might have hit a trend or two here, but most, 90% of the trends I went into, I was too late, it was too saturated, so on and so forth. So through all of that, after the first year, so my first Q4, actually right when Q4 started, so it was actually more about 8-9 months I was going hard with holidays, had no luck with them really. So right when Q4 started, this would have been not this past Q4, but the Q4 prior, I said, I'm going to switch things up a little bit. I'm going to actually, because Christmas was rolling around. So I did some Christmas, but that was the point where I literally did a 180. I said, I'm gonna slow down. I'm gonna take a step back, and I'm gonna focus primarily on evergreen niches.
Okay.
And I'm not a graphic designer by any means. I am sort of an artist at heart. I've done a lot of different art growing up, but this is my first foray into using graphic design software and stuff. So, but anyway, back to kind of my journey. So again, 2 Q4s ago, right when Q4 started, I said, let me start focusing on evergreens. And so I did that. And it was just kind of started with evergreen stuff that I was familiar with, hobbies, occupations, and that Q4 I did really well. That was literally the first month I ever did over $1,000 profit. That was that would have been October, two Octobers ago. And then November, I did more. And then December, I think, I think I did like almost 8,000 that year. And it was mostly those evergreens that I jumped into early in Q4 and a little bit of Christmas. So starting last year, at the beginning of last year in January, I was like, I'm going all in evergreen. So literally from the beginning of the year, I started testing different evergreen, niches out and stuff like that. And I built it up over the entire course of the year. And what I would do is kind of my strategy is what I would do is I would try to find a new niche, go into it, and then do as much stuff as I can do in a day. Boom, forget about it, put it off to the side, and go into another one the next time I was designing and stuff. And then over the course of a few weeks, over a couple months, the niches that started selling, I would double back on those and grow those out. And then the ones that didn't sell, I just kind of forgot about. So that's kind of been my strategy. And then, over the course of a year, 2 years, you get enough that are popping, that sell consistently, that you find that consistency month to month, regardless of, whether it's January, June, November. And then obviously in Q4, everything ramps up. But that's kind of been my strategy in a nutshell, I'd say.
Okay, well, so let's talk about you saying that you double down.
Yeah.
So for instance, so are you doing, and I'll just use this as an example, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
World's greatest father. Now, are you making variations of that slogan, or are you doing different slogans but in the father niche?
Right. So probably a little bit of both, and I'll expand on that. So basically, what I'm doing, and I'm glad you actually brought the father thing up, because last year, like I said, I'm not doing a whole bunch of holidays, but there are a couple holidays that I did well last year and that I am going to focus on again this year. Father's Day being probably the number one. Um,
Really?
yeah, along with 4th of July and Pride, and I'll explain why on all of those.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, all of those, if done correctly, design-wise, those can be evergreen niches, but you can really
Sure.
capitalize and get those, boosting during those holidays. So, for instance, for Father's Day, let's go back to that. I'll design father's shirts, and I will do certain phrases, that I find, and I will do variations. But a big thing that I do is I actually try. This is what I suck at. I suck at a ton of things. I suck at everything, but there's a couple things that I'm okay at. And one thing is I may find a phrase that's already out there, or even just an idea that may or may not be on a shirt. And I'm good at, for whatever reason, I'm good at coming up with just new phrases or variations of a phrase already out there, or just whatever the case may be. So I might do variations of a phrase, but I'll twist it slightly, and I might take that phrase and either make a different one or make it so it's more concentrated towards a father that's an engineer, a father that's into any number of things, any number of hobbies or whatever. So
Sure.
I'm kind of finding one thing and then exploiting it by just going, in many different directions. Hopefully that makes sense. But then,
No, it makes total sense.
yeah,
But yeah, so you'll make certain amount of variations for that slogan, but at the
yeah,
same time, you'll make a variety of other designs for that particular niche.
yes, 100%, 100%,
Okay.
yeah,
How do you do your research? And again, I'm here to learn because
yeah.
again, you've surpassed me to the point where, again, you're you're doing what I want to do, basically.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah. So I'll do different things. Basically what I'm doing is I still use Amazon. I'll go on Etsy, stuff like that. But let's use the Father's example, or what, Father's Day example, or even just fathers in general. That example.
Hmm.
What I would do, what I was looking for, like new like micro niches or sub niches. What I would do is I'd go on Google and I would look at popular men's hobbies for 2019, or this year 2020, or trending hobbies, or look at hot occupations, or little things like that. Even like I was doing nurses, not for fathers, but just nurses in general. And I was
Hmm.
looking at all the types of nurses, and there's literally, there's ER nurse, there's labor and delivery. There's so many different types of nurses. So even when I was doing nurse stuff, I would just literally look at a list of different types of nurses, and I would use the same slogan, but I would go into each of those. I would do a delivery, labor and delivery, whatever all the different classifications are.
Sure.
Um, so I would use Google and just kind of work off lists of different things, kind of find lists of different sub niches within that overarching, main niche. So, but as far as research, I do a lot of testing. I know everybody has their own method. I kind of work. What I try to do, and I can't do this every day, obviously, but last Q4 I was really trying to do this. Every day I would just try to find one new niche, go into it, and literally try to find a new one every day. So after 30 days, you've now tested out 30 different ones, and I know that's kind of what do they call that, spray method or whatever, that sometimes works, sometimes it doesn't. But for me, I find that when I do that, I get enough new niches selling that I can, like I said, double back on those ones. But it's worked for me. I will say, and I don't know if we want to talk about this right now, but it's one point that I didn't want to forget. In terms of research, it's not so much in terms of niche research, but in terms of keyword research. I
Hmm.
do use the Amazon dropdown
Hmm.
on the incognito tab. So, and what I'll do is I'll enter different seed words. So let's say we're doing a Father's Day shirt. I'll go to the drop down and I'll try different things. I'll try fathers and see what drops down. I'll try funny fathers. I'll try vintage fathers. And for all of those different, I call them seed words, because you're entering 1 or 2, even 3 different, words. And depending on what you enter, the Amazon dropdown is going to give you a whole bunch of different options. And I'm big
Sure.
on long tail keywords. So that's my titles are all long tail keywords. I've kind of evolved to do nothing but long tail keywords, and those have worked well. So, you may find funny Father's Day gifts from daughter, something like that. And I'll use that entire thing in my title.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Before you continue, I'm just curious, what tier are you on, and how many shirts do you have live?
So I'm tier 20,000 right now. My live, let me go look, because it's dropped down a little bit. I'm right under 9,000 live. I'm at 8,952 live. So I have 11,000 open slots.
Wow.
So I have quite a bit. And then from a sales perspective, I'm about, about 1,500 more sales I'll need to be eligible for tier 40,000. But once I'll still have to fill my 80%. So I'm a long way from filling, but yeah. So tier 20,000 and almost 9,000 slots filled.
Okay, so you do your keyword research on Amazon directly. You don't use any special tools or apps. It's all done on Amazon. And for those of you guys, the listeners that don't know what he's talking about, basically what he does is he just goes into Amazon.com, he'll type in a certain word, and then Amazon will give you some pre-populated results based on that word.
Yes.
Correct?
100%.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so and then you use long tail keywords, you said, for your title. Gosh, I mean, I have so many questions. Who's doing your designs?
So I'm doing 100% of my designs. Yeah. 100%.
Oh, you are? Interesting.
Yeah, all of them. Yeah, no, I don't.
Okay, for some reason I thought you were outsourcing some of your designs. Now, are you doing illustrations? Are you doing text-based designs, or a combination, or so? What are we talking here?
So I will say that I do 100%. I had outsourced, maybe 100 or so that first year, but the past year and a half, 2 years, I've done 100% of the designs. So that's the thing, is I actually do quite a bit of text-based, and I will say, before I get deeper into that, the one thing I did pick up from you at the conference is you had did a little presentation on like typography and how important, because it is an art.
Yeah, and that's the thing. A lot of people don't consider it art for whatever reason. Yeah.
Oh no, it's definitely an art. It's because just choosing a font and placement in and of itself, just those two things alone is very much an art. Because I've seen horrible text-based shirts, and I've seen great text-based, and again, a font can make all the world of a difference. So so back to your question though, I'm doing primarily text-based with or without a complementary graphic or two. So I'm not doing any illustrations, because I can't use. I've never made an illustration, so I'm not good with Illustrator. But I will get a little free it might be a little decorative thing or a little flower, depending on whatever the design is. But I will say a good portion of my designs are strictly text-based.
Wow, that is so impressive. That is so impressive. So you're doing primarily text-based designs, and yet you're putting up the numbers that you're putting up. So let's go back into research.
Yes.
So you're doubling down. You're making a variety of designs with the same phrase. Sometimes you'll come up with your own phrase.
Yeah.
When you do your research, like, how do you know if that particular niche is good or not? Okay. Again, obviously, I'm sure everyone that does merch by now, Father's Day, that's a pretty saturated niche.
Right.
You probably find some niches that are untouched, I'm sure. How do you go about finding and doing your research?
So yeah, obviously Father's Day is a big one, big saturated one. But for me, so I will say what I actually learned over time that I initially I didn't believe in was, initially I thought a lot of the smaller hobbies and occupations, I thought that they weren't I thought that they weren't lucrative enough to go into, or they weren't consistent. You wouldn't be able to get consistent enough sales to go into. And I learned that that was wrong. So I'm going to give you an example. And it's obviously gotten a lot more popular recently. But when I first got into it, there's the game cornhole. You know, the game cornhole. Yeah. So like stuff like that, where like it's not as big as basketball or golf or something. I was started going into little niches like that. So I would put some stuff in, in that one, or even like I don't know if you know what a tardigrade is, but it's like a little microscopic. It's like a microbiology type thing. It's like they call them water bears, and it's just like a little. I don't know what it is. It's just like a little. Like a little, I don't know. It's like they call them water bears. It's like a little microscopic organism, so to speak. So I would just find stuff like that. And the only reason I mentioned those two, because I'm looking at what sold today, and those are the last two sales that I had.
Okay.
And so I would just find things like that. I will say I use, there's that merchresearch.com. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it filters out all the merch shirts. It's a free website. I think, I don't know if Will created it or who, but I would go there sometimes and then not put any keywords, just hit enter and then search by new arrivals. And it essentially shows you a bunch of new merch shirts that have sold. And I would just go down the list and look for little interesting things. And then from there, like, I might have seen cornhole, or I might have seen tardigrade, not knowing what it was. And then I would go and Google search and figure out what it was. I would open another Amazon tab and search that word tardigrade, figure out what's out there, look at what's selling, and see if there's enough. Because for me, what I do is, if I'm looking at, let's say, a new something like that, right? I look and I'm looking at the first page. A lot of people have like these guidelines. They need to see so many below 100,000 BSR, this and that. For me, I know that like a lot of times I can make a sale and 5 days later the BSR will be in the high 100,000s. It might have even hit 1 million. So I don't have any hardcore, like it can be deceiving. So if you see anything between, I'd say 100,000 and 1 million, and you see 4 or 5 shirts on that first page, for me, that's good enough, because that one that's 800 or 900,000 BSR most likely has sold in the past week or two. So I don't have any hardcore, guidelines. I kind of just look at it. I've done it enough times now that I can just kind of look at it really quick and take a quick glance at that first page, and I'll be like, this is either worth it or not. And if it's worth it, boom, I get to it. I do work pretty quick, so I don't spend a whole lot of time on even research anymore. I'll go out and a few ideas, get to it, and then forget about it. And the next day, just kind of keep at it. So.
Okay, I lost you there for a split second. So let's go back to your cornhole example then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So you're doing your research. You find the cornhole niche, and again, you're making, how many variations are you making? Are you making 20, 30, maybe more?
Yeah. So I will say that what I do, I don't have any set number, but I will come up with as much as I can in that sitting. So sometimes I'll have a couple hours at a time. Other times, I'll have half a day. You generally between 15 and 20, but let's say between 10 and 20 minimally, sometimes as much as, 30 or 40, depending on how much time I have. And, if I'm working 2 hours versus 8 or 10 hours in a row. But it'll just as much as I could come up with in a sitting. And sometimes it will only be 10 different ideas. And it could be, when I say 10 ideas, I'm saying like 10 different designs. So you may have like, let's say 4 or 5 that are, just text-based, and they're, they might be completely different. And then you might have another 4 or 5 that I've kind of I've kind of just taken, I might have taken a phrase and then made it specifically for a man or specifically for a woman by just adding a couple of words or taking a couple of words away. But yeah, anywhere from, whatever, literally whatever I can do. There may be times that I can only come up with 5 things for a niche, and I won't stress myself out. I'll do those 5 and boom, move on to the next one. And then, come back to it if I ever make a sale. But essentially, as much as I could come up with in a sitting, and as much as I could either find or come up with on my own. And then once I get stuck and there's nothing else, there creatively, I'll kind of move on. So.
Right. Cause what I do is, and this is something that I've always talked about from the beginning. and I still believe in it. And I mean, it might not, show it on paper as far as me getting paid, but
Yeah.
I've always believed in, you go into a niche, you
Mhm.
put out the best design possible, right,
Yeah.
in that one particular niche,
Mhm.
maybe one or two, and then um, my philosophy is, just let it stay there, and because the design is what I consider better than everyone else's,
Yeah.
that it'll start getting sales.
Mhm.
um Apparently that's not really working for me. So I'm just thinking out loud here. So I should then maybe start making about four, five, maybe even 10 variations then, huh?
Yeah, I feel like, it works for me. Again, like every once in a while, I will get stuck and not have that many, but generally, I could come up with, 5 to 10 if in a normal sitting, if I'm not here all day working on one niche. Yeah, I will say one other thing I haven't mentioned is I do everything. I don't know if you do it this way, but I do everything all at once. So I don't like research one day and then do designs the next day and then upload the next day. I know some people kind of space things out. For me, what works best for me, I don't know if I have ADD or how it works. I literally do it all. I'll research and I'll design and I'll upload all within that, that all at once.
Uh-huh.
And so that's kind of why I do, 5, 10, whatever the case may be, because I'm not going to come back to it unless things start selling.
Okay.
And,
Okay.
that could take me 4 or 5, 2 hours up to 4, 5, 6 hours. And other days when I don't, when my girl's here and she's watching the kids and I could just go, I might be here 8 hours working on 1, 2, 3 niches, depending on, how
Hmm.
deep I can go into each one. But yeah, I feel for me, because I will say what'll happen is if I put 5 or 10 different designs out there, a lot of times between 1 and 3 or so will really get going, and then the rest won't.
Hmm.
So I figure, if you only have 1 or 2 out there, you they definitely could sell. But if they, had you maybe put 3 or 4 out there, maybe that third or fourth one is the one that sells, or something like that.
Are you putting up that same design on various products, or just the t-shirts?
So I am, since I have so many slots, I do. I'll tell you what I do. Most products, I do all. So for one, I don't do any pop sockets.
I quit pop sockets a while back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, me too. And then as far as the apparel products, I do pretty much every single upload. I do a T-shirt. I do tank tops. What was the other one? The V-necks. If it's if a girl comes. Oops, sorry
Ah!
about that. Sorry about that.
No, that's a good
Yeah,
that's
if it's
that's a good sign.
like yeah, no doubt. If it's a unisex design and it's not specifically for men, I'll do the V-necks, and then I also do the hoodies, long sleeves. The only thing I don't do is I haven't been doing the zip hoodies because they look kind
Hmm.
of funky on the front. And then I don't always do premium. Every once in a while, I'll do premium. If it's like a girl shirt, I tend to sell more girl shirts in premium. But
Okay.
yeah, so like 4 or 5
So
V-necks every
so it
time.
sounds like you're doing almost what I'm doing. So I don't really do premiums anymore.
Yeah.
I don't do pop sockets, but I'll get that same design and
Mhm.
I'll upload it onto every other product that's available. Um,
Yes.
the only difference is it sounds like you're just putting up a variety, and I can show you some of my designs after this interview, and you can kind of get a sense of what kind of stuff that I'm putting up.
Yeah,
Um,
and likewise, I'll show you some stuff too, man.
yeah, and so I'm maybe thinking that I should reconsider my strategy and just really just saturate a particular niche that's untouched.
Right.
Um, Maybe that's the way to do it. Again, I'm not sure, but now are you getting sales organically, or are you pushing ads?
I'm actually 100% organic. I haven't ran an ad since 2 Christmases ago. All last year, I didn't run one ad. I had planned to start some AMS this year, but I haven't even gotten to it. So, yeah, I'm all organic right now.
God, man, you are blowing my mind right now because you have about the same amount of shirts live that I have.
Oh, wow.
Um, but you're making 3-4 times more, and I'm
Yeah.
just, oh gosh, man. And see, now it's getting to the point where I'm just getting frustrated, and I don't want to talk to you anymore. I'm kidding, obviously.
No, of
I'm
course.
I'm I'm kidding. But it's just no. I mean that's so freaking impressive, man. I'm just again. I'm just. I mean. Okay. So you explained how you do your research.
Yeah.
You explained uh, um, how you do your keyword research as well. Is there anything else that you're doing?
Let me think here. Nothing really else. I will say the biggest, I could add one more thing. I kind of talked about it earlier, but I would say the biggest breakthrough for me when things kind of went from, you know, um, when they went from pretty flat and stagnant to increased sales, there was a couple things. Well, it's really three things. So again, and I mentioned a couple of them already. It was going from holidays to evergreen, and the evergreen for me, it just you get consistent sales month to month. It doesn't matter what month it is. You always have once you have enough evergreen niches selling, you're always gonna and it takes a while. Like this took a while to build out, but once you have enough selling from month to month, you're always gonna get pretty steady sales once you get to a certain point. But so it was the switching to evergreens. It was the changing my keyword strategy to long tails because previously that's something that I did I really evolved into sometime last year. So I noticed a big boost once I did that because when you search those long tails out, specifically however that long tail is, I'm right there on the first page, and a lot of times in the first row or two for quite a bit. So the long tail was huge for me. And then three, I will say, at the top of last year, I also went. So let me tell you this. I haven't told you this yet. I actually do all my designs in Merch Informer Designer. I've done all
Get
that.
out of here! Are you serious?
I swear. And I'm actually teaching myself Photoshop now, but I haven't actually uploaded a Photoshop design yet. I'm still teaching myself, trying to get up to a certain level. So because I'm horrible thus far, but I'm gonna move over to only using Photoshop. But so anyways, back to the Merch Informer Designer. I've only used that since it came out, and at the top of last year is when I started buying fonts, and I invested in fonts. Yeah, and so that's the third thing. So switching to evergreens, the long tail keywords, and then starting to use and really hone in on good fonts, especially fonts for specific niches and stuff like that. Those are the three big things. That was all three of those combined is where everything kind of took off for me. So beyond that, there's really nothing else that I'm doing. I don't do anything even closely. A lot of people like to skirt the lines and do gray area stuff. I mean, I'll show you my designs. They're very simple, and they're very vanilla in terms of
Wow,
the niches
you
that I
are
go into.
blowing my mind right
That's
now
basically it. Yeah.
because you're I mean you're designing, you're making all your and I'm not criticizing Merch Informer at all because I like Merch Informer. I use a Merch Informer, and I like Neil.
Yes, of course.
But at the same time, his the design app that they release is really, it's a very basic
It's very beginner.
yeah,
Yes.
and so you're blowing my mind by taking a very simple basic design app, and yet you're still making a profit. Oh my gosh, man.
No.
That's ridiculous. Now, are you cross posting your designs onto other platforms? Are you doing, like, for instance, Etsy or Redbubble and any of that?
So I'm not. I did open a Redbubble a couple years ago, and I do have a very very small handful of designs on there. Etsy was actually, it's been at the top of my list for since the beginning of last year, and I've been meaning to move over there, and I've kind of had like an idea on where I wanted to get merch before I started focusing my efforts, because I guess that's another thing for me is the fact that I've been able to hone in on just one platform and really laser focus on just merch. I feel like that's another component to my success is I haven't really spread myself thin. So every day I'm grinding and grinding and grinding on merch. But no, I have, the short answer is no, I do plan on really making a big concerted effort to get Etsy going. But I kind of want to, the whole point was with merch is I wanted to get it to, my goal's always been 10,000 a month on the non-Q4 and I'm getting there. I'm getting close. I feel like this is hopefully the year. Maybe by mid-year I'll be there. But I always wanted to get that to that point, and then kind of just completely focus on Etsy until I got that to the level that I wanted it to. But yeah, no, not yet. It's just mostly been merch. I have a few things on Etsy, a very small number of things on Redbubble, but that's it. It's been all merch.
Hmm. So, so I want to tell the listeners this, okay?
Yeah.
So you're like the good example. You're like a prime example of someone who doesn't make any excuses. See, I make excuses. I'm not gonna lie. I make excuses all the time. Oh, I said it earlier in the beginning. I've been busy with my damn job. But
Right.
you're one of those guys, who doesn't make excuses. You just said it yourself. You'll do everything in one sitting, eight to
Yeah.
nine, 10 hours. You grind everything out. You do your research. You find your niche. You find your keywords. You'll, make your design, and you'll make variations of that design, and you'll do everything in one sitting.
Yes.
You're grinding, my man, and props to you. One thing that I've always said is this: merch by Amazon is not a passive income business. I know a lot of people believe it is.
Right.
I think to a certain point it can be,
Mhm.
but man, you are grinding, and it's not like uh, um, it's not like now that you're making $1,500-$1,600 a week. It's not like you're just sitting around and not doing anything. You're still constantly working, right?
100%. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I am very thankful and grateful for the success I've had thus far. But I'm about halfway of what I wanted to get to monthly. So yeah, no, I'm grateful, and it's kind of like it showed me what's possible. But I'm really trying to keep it going, keep growing. At this point, I have 11,000 open slots. So my immediate 2020 goal is just to get those filled, and then keep going, keep scaling. It's tough. I will say the one tough part with doing it myself is as we get into these higher tiers, it's tough to scale by myself. But
Hmm.
and I haven't really, I haven't really figured out how I'm gonna, what I'm gonna do when in the future. But right now I am still a one-man show, and I'm gonna keep it that way. And I may consider some other things in the future. But yeah, I'm just grinding it out every day, man. 100%.
Yeah, no, you're like me in the sense that I'm a one-man operation. I do outsource. I don't know if you know this or not, Joseph, but I've talked about this, where I'm outsourcing a lot of my designs these days to local
Yeah.
students, local
No, I've
college
heard of it. I've
students.
heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny was I was talking to a friend. In fact, it was this past weekend, and she had asked me, "Well, how much are you paying these kids?" And I'm like, "Oh, about I'm sorry, about 35,
Mhm.
30 to $35 per design." And she lost her freaking mind. She was like, "Why are you paying so much?" And I'm like, "Look,"
Right.
and I've said this how many times now. I'm not here to find uh, 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 some guy in the Philippines who claims to be a designer. I want to find someone who I know is a real designer. But not
Yeah.
just that. If you break it down, I mean, what is it? We get what, anywhere between $4 to $5 royalty per shirt.
Yes.
Obviously, depending on how we price our shirts.
Mhm.
But if you can't sell, in my opinion, if you can't sell 6 to 7 of that design in one calendar year, right, and make that $35 back, you're doing something wrong,
I
right?
completely agree. Yeah.
And up to this point, I've been able to make most of my money back within the full calendar year.
Right.
Um, so that whole argument of, oh man, you're paying way too much, that's I don't listen to all that. But man, you are blowing my mind right now, man. So you're a one man. Is your family helping out at all? Like your kids? I know. I don't know if you're married. I do know that you have a significant other. I mean, are they helping?
No, they're not. They're not helping. I do everything, even the uploads. No, I do it all. Everything, 100% of it thus far. I've done it. I've done it all. That's why. That's why I only have 9,000 or whatever, almost 9,000 of the 20,000 total. Is just once you get the thousands of designs up, even to get another 1,000 slots filled, it just takes time. But nope,
Hmm.
I'm doing it all. Yep.
Yeah. One thing that's been helping me also, and I'm sure you probably have the extension is it producer?
I know what you're talking about. I downloaded it when it first came out, and I couldn't get it to upload my products, and
Oh, really?
I haven't been back to it, but I have been meaning to download it. What I do use the Merch Informer Lister. Neil came out with. It just kind of you set little profiles up, and then every time you're kind of in the same niche, you could set
Hmm.
different keys. And I've used that, but I don't use Productor. I have been meaning to re-download it, and I just
Yeah. So the cool thing about that extension is it tells you when your designs are going to be expired and they're going to drop off.
okay.
So it'll tell you, you have such and such design, you have X amount of days before it falls off because of no sales. So you might want to re-upload it. That's a cool feature, and I
Oh,
was
that's
wondering if you
cool.
use that because since you're a one-man show,
Right.
but it sounds
No,
like you don't. But definitely look into it because I think uh, it'll help out a lot again since you're doing everything by yourself. Um,
yeah,
Man, dude, I am so impressed. Again, I've been following you. We met a couple of, 2, 3 years ago, and you were
yeah.
just getting started. And the fact that you made, again, no excuses, man. You're just grinding it out. You're grinding it out. Are you working 7 days a week on this?
So,
Probably not, right? You got 4 kids. I'm sure
well, I would
you
say,
got to spend time with them.
yeah, no, I would say last year I was finding time every day to work. So, sometimes like, I'm doing a lot of taking the kids to school, picking them up. I also have two young ones at home now. I have a 2 and a 4-year-old. So even though I have kids in school, I also have two at home. So it is a full-time job, just being a dad. But, you
Sure.
know, last year I was finding time every day, and sometimes I would be immediately in the morning. Other times I may not be able to sit down until the evening, or even once they're all asleep at night, and I don't get to it until 10 at night, and I'm going till 3, 4 in the morning. So I will say now that I've built it to the level that I have, that's the beautiful thing about it is I can take a day off, 2 days off. So this year, and actually I don't think I had even told you this, but I grinded all the way up until Thanksgiving, and then from Thanksgiving through the end of December, I literally took an entire month and a week break or whatever that is, and I
Mhm.
took it off. I didn't upload, do anything, and then we just moved at the top of the year. So since we've moved here, been a lot of unpacking this and that. So I've been working a lot less than I have had previously, but I'm just now getting settled in and kind of getting back into the groove and stuff. So no, I
Mhm.
generally work every day, but it's nice to be able to take a day or two off here and there, and the sales still come in and stuff. So
Yeah, again, and I said, I don't fully believe in passive income. I said that many times, but this is a business where, like, and you're a good example where you're constantly working, but at the same time, you can take an X amount of days off if you wanted to, and still have the results that you have. Is there anything else that you can share to help me try and scale my account, man? Because I am just my mind's just blown right now.
no, I appreciate that, man. I'm trying to think. I feel like we've covered just about everything else. This probably won't help, but it may be a question that some people might be wondering, and that's just with my pricing. And I don't feel like my pricing has anything to do with my sales per se, but I will say just if people are curious how I price things, it's kind of been an evolution as well. I used to be start everything at cost and slowly raise as sales came in, and I
Mm,
would say that worked a good deal, and it taught me a lot. But anymore, this is what I do anymore. The only stuff I start at cost is stuff if I'm going into a niche that's 30, 40,000 results.
I
Um,
got you.
yeah, but anymore, I'm either at 1698 or 1798 at upload. So like initially, boom, I'm starting it
That is
there.
crazy.
Yeah. But outside of that, I can't really think about anything that we haven't covered, other than like I said, I'm going into a lot of niches, and some days there's points where like I'm pushing myself to try to hit a new one every day, and
Mm,
obviously that's not I'm not doing that every day, but there are times like around Q4, right before Q4 last year, I was pushing it. So I'm like
yeah,
30 days, 60 days from now, I'm going to be in 30 or 60 new niches. So I do go
yeah.
into a lot of stuff, so that's another element to it. But
Well,
yeah.
my man, dude. I mean, you've shared so many nuggets here today. Thank you so much. I know you're busy. Um, how's Denver these days? It's got to be freezing right now. Yeah.
What's crazy is like our winter was almost non-existent. There wasn't much snow, and it's all it's all been coming lately. So like, yeah, and it snowed we've had more snow in the past 2 or 3 weeks than we did the entire previous, rest of the winter.
Right.
So
You know what was crazy was when I was there and I met you for the first time. I think it was around September.
mhm.
I swear I've never experienced this, right? So that week it was like 75. I think at one point it was even like 80 degrees. People are walking around in t-shirts, tank tops, flip-flops.
Mhm.
And then the day I left, it went from 80 degrees one day. The day I left,
Yep. And then the snowing or
it
so.
was snowing. I've never experienced that where it goes from 80 degrees to snowing the next day.
It's
Is,
crazy.
is,
Yeah,
is that common?
yeah, 100%. Actually, I was just gonna say these past couple weeks, it's so weird. I'll be in a t-shirt one day, and it's so weird that the warmer it is in the winter, the warmer it is. Usually, the next day or 2 days down the line,
Hmm.
the more it'll snow. So I'll be in a t-shirt one day, and a hoodie and with a coat over it. The next day or 2 days later, it's the
That
weird.
is crazy. Yeah,
The
I
weird
remember. We were supposed to do this show yesterday, but then you said you had gotten stuck in that snowstorm or whatever.
yes. Yep.
Yeah, no, I believe you, man. I believe you. Uh, my man, thank you so much for your time. Again, if there's anyone that deserves success, it's definitely you. 4 kids, you're married. That itself is a full-time job. But again, man, you deserve all the success, and I hope you meet that mark of making 10K per month.
Yeah.
Um, Stick around after this interview because I do want to show you some of my designs. But for the listeners, thank you so much again for being patient with me. I know my schedule has been all over the place. My goal uh, is to get back on a normal schedule, and it should be back to normal starting March. So starting March, I should start putting out regular content. But thank you, Joseph. Thank you to my listeners. And I'll catch you guys next time.
Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.